is interesting. Lincoln Riley seems to me, and this is from just my perspective, we're not out there, we're not on the ground, but this was from John Canzano, and this came from that Lincoln Riley and USC's media relations department banned a media member, and I think even a group of media outlet for a couple of weeks because of what they thought were breaking policies. And there were a lot of comments about USC professors aren't teaching student journalists to close their eyes and ears when the football coach wants them to say. This seems to me, go ahead, Garrett, that's good. I think Lincoln Riley has a very bad case of paranoia, and most coaches do, but his rabbit ears are a little bit maybe higher than most anyone else right now in college football. And I know Saban might be that way or whoever, but man, he's kind of trying to mute and censor the coverage of his football team.
The kid who got, I say the kid, the young reporter, he's in his first year on the beat, that got suspended was putting things in articles that he just heard players saying while he was standing around, and he heard them saying it in non-media periods, but if he heard it and he's reporting it and it's from his own ears, and Lincoln Riley's not saying the kid lied, he's saying that he reported something he shouldn't have, but that's not how media works.
It wasn't like he was going into the locker room, sneaking into the locker room, or calling players after practice when you're not supposed to do that. We don't do that.
No, but they said he violated policies, but also a phone call, honestly, Lincoln Riley calling this person on the phone and saying, look, I'm going to, I don't like that you did this. I'm not a fan of this. I would like you to walk me through your practices here, is a whole lot better than suspending the organization and the reporter really quickly because you don't like it, because it makes you look weak.
All right, here's what he said.
Nothing, I'll tell you this, nothing that this kid is going to write is going to derail USC season. Nothing. We
felt it was far enough that we needed to act on it when he talked about some of the policies being broken by a beat reporter. It's not to the my first job is not to the media. It's not to the fans. It's not to anybody else. It's to protecting our players. I just felt like this was overkill. Craig?
I think it's overkill both directions, honestly. Yeah, I mean, I think the media rightfully is standing up for one of their guys and one of the young guys that's, not fully aware of every possible situation and maybe doesn't know what they were doing was all that wrong or violating, the terms with USC or whatever. Just a young person trying to get a scoop, right? Trying to make a story, trying to, report. And not the traditional way, granted, just sitting there and I don't know if I'd call it, is it eavesdropping? Like, I don't know if you'd refer to it as that, but I guess it sort of is. And, I know that, I just know from my point of view, if I was sitting around the lobby and waiting for media interviews and, one of the Baylor linebackers sitting there talking, and if I heard them say something, I'm probably not passing that along. I guess if it was coaches getting fired, then I would. But if it's, hey, our meeting's such and such, and we talked about this, I don't know. I would probably just be like, you know what? That's a confidential thing that behind these walls, this is not media. This is not something I'm going to report on. Maybe you'd post something on the message board behind a paywall just to pass it along if it was something of interest. But, I think it kind of goes without saying that that's not media. That's just those guys talking, and you don't report that as media. And I think that's where, to say oh my God, what an overreaction. I think that they kind of have a point in that way.
Okay.
But at the same time, yeah, they went way too far with it. You could teach a lesson without, blowing it up to be as big of a deal as it is. I don't know about suspending him for 2 games, but they also said, just to hear both sides, they said this multiple times. So we don't know every single little incident that added up to this. But, yeah, I don't like, knocking young reporters who are just trying to do their jobs and trying to be as good as they can be with providing information. I think there's lessons to be learned there.
You have to, if you get information that perhaps is not during protocol or whatever it is, you then go to the media relations person. This young reporter should learn this as well. And then you go, hey, listen. Hey, I've done this. I've texted media relations people. I've never held back a big story. We could always go back to your Jordan Niver and the transverse frac, whatever it was when he hurt his back, and you then lost your ability to do the PA inside the stadium. But if it's a story and you're not so sure, you could probably also help yourself by going to who you trust in the media relations department and letting them know you know and see how USC or the school will react to it.
Like there are other stories other than that during Baylor's tough times, I would get from a source and be like, hey, look, I know that this guy's been arrested. He had a DUI. This other player was in the car and got a ticket. I'm going to report this right now, but I will hold for your comment before I do. But just know that I've got about 15 minutes before you can do it. And then they say, okay, because they know that I'm not lying about it. I think Lincoln Riley missed an opportunity to create a relationship and do things here, and having rabbit ears. It's only going to get worse for you, USC, as you get better and better and more attention on you. So worrying about this kid to that level, to me, is an overreaction. Yeah, some people need to learn things, but I'll tell you this, my first year on the radio hosting a show, we had Coach Taff on every week, and he was gracious enough to call on our show every week. And we had a caller that called up afterwards that kind of unleashed on Coach Taff, because Coach Taff was against the college football playoff, and he was against a lot of these things because he's an old school guy. And so the guy kind of unleashed on Coach Taff, and I didn't comment as much as I should. I was like, all right, next caller, and we went to the next. We took like 3 callers. Well, Coach Taff quit listening after that because he was upset that he thought I hung him out to dry. Well, he called me up personally. He didn't make a spectacle of me, but he called me personally and said, hey, this is why I'm a little bit upset with you. And we talked it out. Scott Drew's never banned anybody, and people have written terrible things about Scott Drew, but believe me, he has called people on the phone after they've written bad articles about him and talked it out. To me, that's better than publicly suspending a guy before you talk it out.
Yeah, I think that's the way it probably should have been handled, but, I don't know, maybe in their minds, the multiple times that they say, I don't know, I don't believe USC and Lincoln Riley in this. Believe me, I think he's paranoid. I think it's definitely overboard when it comes to, this reaction in particular. But, they also have to protect themselves. I'm not, trying to play both sides here, but I can see it from both sides of why, Lincoln Riley is kind of a tool for that being the reaction. And, hey, USC's not totally wrong in not liking that there's this young reporter role. Like, how long before you have to rein him in, right? And so maybe that's what they're doing and trying to teach a lesson. I don't know. I guess we'll see how the coverage goes the rest of the way, but it didn't turn out to be a very good look for Lincoln Riley from a media standpoint, because every media person known to man was tweeting away last night on how, what a disservice this was to media and to young reporters. So, it became a messy situation that really shouldn't have been a national story.
It could end up being almost a distraction.
It
really can be, because he's going to be answering these questions possibly for quite some time. But if that's their biggest problem, then they'll be fine. Colorado, Roger Dodger, USC fan, with all the attention Colorado is getting, Riley had to do something to draw attention to USC. They'll get their attention. They keep winning. We know that, but I get what you're saying.
They're going to play Colorado in a week, so they'll be able to ride off of that.
Yeah, that'll be fine. I like Lincoln Riley, but I do get, especially the way events have folded over the last 3 years, I do understand the dislike of him and kind of the, some people think he's a bit of a snake. And look, you can say that about a lot of college football coaches. So, like, it is not unique to Lincoln Riley or fan bases having those types of strong feelings towards an ex-coach who spurned them. So, I don't think this is the last Lincoln Riley controversy. I don't think it's really that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. But it is something that's now a potential distraction that should never have gotten to that level of being a national story.
Never would have known about it if they would have just had, like you said, Paul, somebody would have taken this young man off to the side with a teaching moment. Now, if he's abusing things, there was a media relations director at Baylor that did not like my access. Turned out that we have great respect for each other, but he was, I felt like, always kind of working against me. Had to go up the ladder to kind of figure it all out. In the end, it all worked out, but there is a way as a reporter to know what your grounds are, but that doesn't mean you don't do your damn job and search for information when there's something going on with the team or an injury or something else.
Christian Richard, the worst thing Lincoln Riley has ever done was cook that brisket and post it
there you go.
The follow-up with the tuna or whatever.
Tuna? Oh, my gosh.
That was absolutely butchered to death.
That's
that
great.
Was one of the, yeah, he's – that's He's never going to live down that brisket,
What's
man. He's just never going to do it.
What's Gordon? They need Gordon Ramsay in there to,
Oh, Gordon
to yell
Ramsay
at
would
him.
have destroyed him. Maybe he would have been like tucked his tail between his
Can
legs.
you imagine
and done.
seeing Gordon Ramsay doing the idiot sandwich thing to Lincoln Riley? That'd be awesome.
That's a great show, whatever he's involved in one. All right, we will have